if someone doesn't adopt AI, you're not noticing the ways that you are less efficient.
Hello and welcome to Beauty and the Biz, where we talk about the business and marketing side of plastic surgery. I'm your host, Catherine Maley, author of Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying, as well as consultant to plastic surgeons to get them more patients and more profits. Now, we typically would have a usual interview with a plastic surgeon talking about his practice, but today we have something different and it's incredibly timely. I'm excited to introduce Clark Mackey. He's the director of online marketing and owner of Cake Websites and More, with over 20 years of experience in digital marketing and SEO. Now, Clark is also a certified Google partner, making him an authority on all things online marketing. Now, I invited Clark today to discuss one of the hottest topics in the industry right now, and that is artificial intelligence, otherwise known as AI. So with AI rapidly changing the way we operate, it's critical for plastic surgeons to stay ahead of the curve so they don't get left behind. So I wanted to talk with Clark about AI because he knows an awful lot about it, and I'm learning a lot about it. And quite frankly, I'm using it every day in my own business. So Clark, welcome to Beauty and the Biz.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
That's fantastic. So just let's start out. What is AI in plain English?
It's just training a computer to perform like a human. And AI is a catch-all term. So if someone is, studying up and watching YouTube videos and going to conferences and hearing speakers, AI is going to be thrown around as a almost generic term to incorporate a whole bunch of specific technologies.
Yeah, that's true. And at the conferences, AI is a hot topic right now, and there some of the doctors are really embracing it. Some could care less, but those who do care, I think they need to. And answer that question, would you please? Why should plastic surgeons care about AI?
Well, the first reason is positive. It's because AI is going to basically offer the opportunity to save money and be more profitable. And whether that's by creating some competitive advantages, by doing things faster or cheaper, it's going to combine basically some efficiency questions. So if someone doesn't adopt AI, you're not noticing the ways that you are less efficient. And I actually have a funny story running an agency. In 2021, we were tracking a site that was competing with a project that we were working on. And we noticed that their rate of publication shot way up. And it was an early use of an AI model to dump a bunch of pages online. And instead of tanking that other product, it actually started to draw more traffic and rank for a bunch more terms. Now, I'm not endorsing, nobody should run out and just crank out web pages or blog posts or social media posts because of that. Those things didn't rank for long term, but it's an example of the kind of early potential of adopting these tools. And if you don't experiment with them, you won't get the efficiency. And then the other reason is kind of the stick in the equation of the carrot and stick. And that is that other people are going to use these tools and gain those advantages, which would reduce your practice. They would even the surgical results are ultimately going to be affected by AI as imaging tools get rolled out that allow a doctor to see an overlay in front of his glass of the ideal location for a certain thing while he's operating, or pause for a second in the middle of surgery and have an example of a similar complication flash up in front of his eyes without him having to leave, the scrubbed in state. So these tools are being pushed on us, and they really are a replacement for labor. That's what I encourage all of our clients to think about as they're adopting this stuff. It's what we think about as an agency. One of the reasons I was excited to come on here is because we have been involved in this multi-year process to retool as an agency and make sure we're as efficient as possible and that we're delivering all the competitive advantages. But yeah, first reason is to be more profitable. And second reason is to make sure you don't get reduced by somebody else's agenda, whether it's the investors in the AI tool pushing it on us or another competitor just adopting it ahead of you.
I couldn't agree more. As a marketing agency, as well as a business consulting agency, I have used it so much. It has become my everyday resource. I can put numbers in there and have it calculate them in different ways that I couldn't have done before easily. I can do so much more now. I've always done a ton of content. I am so much more efficient. I've spent like every Saturday morning for years, writing content on the weekends. I can do it now in an hour when it used to take me four. Just watching how it has changed the way I work. I still get everything done. I think it's more creative because it comes up with more ideas than I had come up with on my own. And it just makes all of us more efficient. So I can get a lot more done and it's better quality. I'm loving AI so far. I hope it, doesn't end the world because I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't end the world either.
Yeah. So who's going to benefit most from AI in the next 5 to 10 years? Is it going to be the surgeons, the patients, or the big tech platforms?
Whew. Um, Over the 5-year period, I think it's the big tech platforms. And when I say big tech platform, I'm not talking about the actual AI companies that you hear about in the news. Some of those companies may go boom and bust. They were all losing money hand over fist as we're recording this podcast because it takes so much investment to improve the technology. And so any of the companies that are rolling out the AI models themselves are risking a lot. They're doing that because they think they're building a future toll road. If lots and lots of people build virtual receptionists and chatbots and social media content creators and uh, X-ray interpreters and all those things, then the toll road makes a lot on each little transaction. Those bets can fail and AI can still succeed. So the big software companies are that I think win in the next 5 years are tool companies, and that's sometimes referred to as software as a service or
Mhm,
SaaS.
mhm,
At any of the plastic surgery meetings, any of the cosmetic meetings, there's tool vendors everywhere in the exhibit hall. They're all trying to sell us on something that is a monthly subscription or has a service element that we have to replace some part for. That model, I think, is going to do really well over the 5-year time frame. I think over a long time frame, though, it doesn't do quite so well.
mm,
And that's where I think the 10-year winner, I'm going to go with patience.
mm,
I think the benefits of even better copywriting, like you were just saying, a better blog post, it helps the patients. Certainly, a better surgical result helps the patients. And as physicians are able to share information and the kind of sharing that goes on in the very best hands-on seminars at the different meetings where one surgeon is presenting on complications and saying, this is how I did it 10 years ago, this is how I do it now, this is why I changed. That type of information being at your fingertips in your day-to-day at the practice, that helps the patient. So I think at the 10-year horizon, it's the patient who's benefiting.
for sure. I just got back from the big aesthetic meeting in Austin, and they were showing a lot of interactive tools that you were just describing. So, for example, there's a cute little widget you could put on your website, and the patient uploads their photo, and the AI little widget tells you how much filler you need. And frankly, I needed a lot of filler, but the point was, it was really fun. It's a sticky way to keep somebody on your website, and patients love that interactive kind of connectivity to your website. You stay longer. Google sees that they're staying longer, so you'll get ranked better. Another one is adding a chatbot, but I've just watched too many of these chatbots that don't help. Somebody will say, "Oh, what can I help you with?" And it'll say, "Oh, how much is a rhinoplasty?" And then the answer is, "Well, once you come in for a consultation, we'll be able to examine you and then give you a quote then." And then it says, "Do you have any other questions?" Yes. What would be the recovery? And the, and the answer is literally the answer is, well, that depends on a lot of different variables. And after your consultation, we'll address all of that. And I just thought, really think about what you're doing when you're setting these things up. Think like a patient. They are looking for an answer. Give them an answer. Don't mess around and try to and don't ask for their name and number yet. First, give to get. Give them some information so then they're willing to give you some information. I just think there's so much room there for improvement and such possibilities because nowadays leads are tough. Lead generation is tough. It's expensive. And if you can triage some of these leads that you're getting to really like pull out the ones who are super interested. And the only way you can tell that is by behavior. So AI is just so darn good at figuring out, oh, we've got a live one here. They're answering my questions. They're clicking on the buttons. So interesting. Let me ask you this. Give me one, although I just named a couple, but give me one super simple way a practice can start using AI this week.
I think an easy one is to record all of your internal meetings and transcribe them. There are some HIPAA compliant meeting agents that you basically invite. You sign up, you put in your credit card, make sure it's a HIPAA compliant product when you're signing up for it. And then it just sits in your meeting like another employee, but it records the whole meeting, video and audio, and transcribes it. And then that transcription, that content, you need to have your practice admin or whoever's running the office create a dedicated folder locally in your hard drive system or in your computer where you store those things for long term. It's a very easy step. It makes it much easier to then use your own recorded notes to build a better business. And one of the fundamental ways we can protect ourselves from the downsides of AI is to make sure we are building our own data warehouse, basically. I
Hmm.
mean, just imagine a filing cabinet, and you have some of your old tax records you're required to keep. But what you really want in that filing cabinet is the outline of the best book you've ever read, or the snippet of poetry that you wrote that still matters to you, or your favorite cases and surgical results. The more you get in that filing cabinet, a future version of this technology is going to be able to search directly on that data. It's not going to need a software as a service layer. It's not going to need even necessarily a chat interface, but it is going to need the database. So you turn on meeting recordings this week and you start building that database. And then you're going to figure out later exactly how you build on it and what you ask it. But wondering what your process was 10 years in the future on a certain date in the past could be an effortless query if you turn it on. So yeah, record some meetings.
Hello there. Quick pause to ask you if you have gaps in your practice draining your time, profits, and peace of mind. If so, I can help you streamline, grow, and take the guesswork out of your practice. Book your practice growth strategy review at catherinemaley.com, and let's turn those gaps into growth. Now, back to the podcast. So, out of curiosity, a lot of us use Zoom. And Zoom now automatically has an AI assistant on there, and it's doing the full on transcript, every word. And it's not perfect, but it's really good because we didn't have it before. And I love it. Also does a summary. So I do an awful lot of Zoom all day, and I can easily go back and reference when I miss something. It has been so helpful. But are you saying it's not HIPAA compliant? I don't know about that part.
I don't know off the top of my head if Zoom is HIPAA compliant or not, but
Yeah.
there are at least two others that are Zoom level quality that are.
Okay, I guess we should make a caveat of
Yeah,
check about that because HIPAA is a
right.
big deal in our world. So you definitely want to be HIPAA compliant.
Yeah. And I know many of the folks that will listen to this are running medical practices or are doctors. If you're dealing with patient info and you would be in a staff meeting in a medical practice, yes, it must be HIPAA compliant. There are others where you can just go find a note-taking tool you like and turn it on. I do have a second. I know you asked for one thing, but there is a second AI thing, and this is a specific tool that I'm going to reference at the risk of it being out of date. But there's an AI tool vendor called Open Evidence that is for doctors.
Mm,
And I don't know if it is actually still in beta or if it's going to some type of subscription model. I think it may still be technically in an open beta kind of situation.
mhm.
But it's designed for doctors to share case type information with other doctors and then make uh, referencing any medical study kind of almost effortless. So it requires you to be a physician to participate, to put in your NPI number. But once you're in, it's like a well of information to cross-reference very specific medical information from really the whole body of peer-reviewed medical studies. So that's one to just, it's not that hard to sign up. Last time I looked, it did not charge. But that's one that I would try, especially if I had my own NPI number, which I don't.
Yeah. So for visibility online, like what would be your favorite tool to recommend to a doctor looking for more visibility?
So there are a couple of basic tools that I think everyone needs. The first is, and there are plenty of, this is just a free dashboard that you will need to reference and bookmark, but you need a tool for tracking which AI model is doing what,
Mm.
because it changes all the time. So a simple search for LLM dashboard, or which LLM is best, or token limits for an LLM, which is how much information it can process all at once, will take you to some of these leaderboards, and it will indicate what the different AIs are doing well at a given moment. So you're asking about visibility, but
Mhm.
before you do that, like, you don't want to take the free version of ChatGPT right now as we're recording and spend a lot of time asking it to give you content if 2 months ago their competitor released a paid tool that's 200% better, because the time you spend getting mediocre content out of last year's technology would be much better spent on. So you'll need to know what the latest is, and so you want to track one of these leaderboards. And the second thing is to have a paid account with one of these tools. Even if you're a naysayer, it's time to have a paid account so that you can keep track of your own work, um, have a running record, and be able to experiment with your own prompts, that type of thing. Now, getting to online visibility, what's the simplest thing you could do to get some online visibility? Take that paid account and ask it to rewrite your description on one of your profiles.
Great
Take your
idea.
take your medical board profile that you have not looked at in 6 months or 6 years, and feed your own bio to the AI and ask it to rewrite it. It will give you a better description to go on that board website or on that directory site.
I have literally given it my Instagram profile, my any paragraph if I need a PS. It is amazing. But you're right. These AI tools, there are so many of them, and they're all vying for, who's going to win. And I'm so used to, personally, I would say just start with the $20 a month chat GTP just to get your feet wet. My chat GTP knows me so well that it has become my business advisor, my marketing team, my strategist. It's amazing. But you're right. Already today, I was listening to another podcast and it said spending $200 a month on blank is going to give you 2,000 times, the power that you're getting right now. And I think, how are we all going to figure all this out? Because do I need 2,000 times more? Like right now, you only know what you only know. And so right now I'm thinking, I am already, I promise, 5 times more efficient than I used to be. And it has so much ideology that it brings along with it. It gives me so many more creative ideas. But I'm just stuck right now with that one because it knows me so well. I would hate to try another one, but then that would be a disservice. How are we going to figure that out? The leaderboard?
The leaderboard, and then uh, these AI tools work in layers, basically. So by focusing on the business problem you need solved, and then storing the prompt you write or the output you get from one particular tool today, storing that in your own data warehouse, be it Google Docs or whatever it is you're going to contemplate, that lets you come back to it and improve it with whatever AI becomes. But it is appropriate to think of AI in layers and for it to be modular like Legos. So you have a database, you have tools, you have large language models, and you have the core AI technologies. And you're going to be able to snap different pieces in place. And we were talking a second ago about chatbots. I do think in 2025, one of the big places that practices will see a change in the marketplace is that these chatbots are going to start working a lot better.
Mm.
Um, the chatbots of old, as an agency, I really never had a great relationship with any particular chatbot. If you staffed it with not your staff, they didn't give the right answers. If you staffed it with your staff, you had to hire way up to keep all the hours open. If you closed it when you weren't there and just ran it during the office day, well, during the office day, you could just answer the phone. Um, so a lot of the old chatbot models had things that made them broken just as a matter of kind of wasn't solving the right business problem. But an AI that's really well trained on your own information and also rests on the shoulders of an LLM trained on, all Western knowledge, has the potential to limit the conversation in the chat to just the needs of the patient and nudge them along just a little bit. And then because it's an AI and because everything is digital, it can score that conversation as it goes, transcribe it as it goes, and then hand it off after a few seconds or a minute or so to someone who's a live person who's ready to really help that patient. But they'd be receiving a hot lead at that point, pre-scored. I think things like that are coming down the pipe pretty fast now. And in that situation, AI chatbot would be something reasonable to evaluate.
I hope the big companies get better at their chatbots because those I find still so frustrating when I want to ask a question, but you can only get an answer the way they want you to ask the question. Like there's no miscellaneous, like, let me just tell you what the problem is, and then you tell me how to fix it. Like you can't tell them a story. You have to fit into the little buttons that they give you. And I find that so frustrating. So one of the things we don't want to do in our industry is frustrate the cosmetic patient with a credit card. It better be convenient and easy. And I know there's always a trade-off. So I would love to do, let's say, scheduling online. I don't need to talk to anybody. I would love to schedule online, especially for the easy things like Botox or filler. I already know all about that. I just want to tell you I'm available when I'm available. I really like that a lot. I know our industry seems to struggle with that because they say, "Oh, well, we have to talk to them first." And I think you really have to think that through because the patient with a credit card really does like convenience and time savings. So I would figure that out, you know?
Yeah, and I think that there's some legitimate struggle on the back end of any office, and you're limited by your EMR system, you're limited
Yeah.
by your, internal database and network, you're limited by your actual staff, and I think those things are what makes scheduling look so difficult. If you could, if a physician could eliminate some of those bottlenecks, then having a scheduler operating higher up in your funnel, your desire path of your patient as they come to you, would be a help. But it's some of those behind the front desk problems that have to be solved to make it work. And sometimes the problem is just that you don't have any scheduling option that really works well. And then if you're a very large software company and you've sold, say, EMR licenses to thousands of practices, you don't quickly make changes to that software. So you're not quickly going to make the scheduling thing really brilliant. And the small software company that might have brilliant scheduling isn't going to have a connection to the back end that now that you're using. So it could be a minute on that.
I just think we all have to, if you want to play this game for the future, and the future is now, I think you have to stop and think this through and figure out the solution. I don't think we can keep saying, oh, this is too big, can't figure that, can't, I don't know what to do. The more you ask ChatGPT what to do, it'll tell you what to do, you know? There's just too much knowledge out there now at our fingertips for us not to figure things out. I think that's been the biggest change in my life. It is now the biggest problem solving tool I have because whenever all day long we're all challenged, all I do all day is ask it questions and it gives me an answer. And it's usually a darn good answer. And I didn't have to Google it and I didn't have to go to YouTube because that's what I used to do. I used to go to YouTube and Google a lot, and now I just go to ChatGPT. It's gotten so efficient because it knows everything. Google knows a lot, YouTube knows a lot, but chat knows everything. It's crazy. So
It
crazy.
it is, and I want to say something about the content that we get out of these AIs because right now it's still too weak for a lot of our applications.
Hmm.
In some niches of business, it is good enough to go to publish or to look at it and decide if it needs any edits and then approve and publish.
All right.
But in the medical space, it often needs a good bit of touch up or
Mhm.
rewrite or a real strict fact check for medical information. So that the nature of the way the AI is trained is to analyze a huge set of documents and then predict what the best sentences would be to answer the query it's been given, or the prompt in this case. So, in a way, AI is averaging all of human knowledge or all of
Mhm.
medical knowledge every time you prompt it. For many businesses, coming to like suddenly publishing at the average level is a huge gain. uh, I've run an agency for a pretty long time now. And for many, many years, we had a pretty heavy copywriting advantage where our content was well structured. We knew the industry, we knew the topics. Our pages tended to be a little longer, but they did really well at the top of the funnel because they were answering patient questions and they were structured well. But as AI did that job, even sometimes the structure job, it does even better. But as AI gives everybody sort of 50th percentile plus a little bit level content, instead of the best written content on the best plastic surgeon site standing head and shoulders above the rest of the industry in a given region, everybody else is answering the same question now. And there's a bit of a race to the bottom using AI. So you still have to come back and add in some expertise or embed that video of you explaining the topic in addition to the things that your own team has written that have been perhaps passed through the AI to really get the right content. But remember that even though AI today is still maybe not delivering what you wish it could generate, it's gotten here in basically 2.5 years. I think it was November 2022, and the first Chat GPT model to the public was GPT 3.0 level content was really what started to be widespread. So it's improving so quickly that you cannot count its current failures against it long term because it's on this kind of hockey stick like progression of getting better and better and better.
I want to reiterate what you said. Unique content is the secret there, the word unique. And you can't be unique if everyone's using the same tool. We're all going to end up with the same blog posts or the same FAQs or the same video scripts. The thing that makes it unique is the audio and the video. And also, like, I just gave a talk on this. Like, for example, when in the copy, you can add things like, well, given my 15 years of experience treating 5,000 patients or performing 5,000 tummy tucks, that's how you're, and then you add in a video and then you add some before and after photos with your watermark. That's how you're going to make it unique. And that's how Google will then see you much more as an authority than somebody who just, did what everyone else did. Yeah.
I do have a slight take on that. So adding back in the unique content is very important, but I also have a contrarian point to make, and that is that more than human visitors, the website and your social media content should also be built for non-human visitors. AIs are visiting your content, and they are asking the question of how does this fit with all the things we've already learned? And one of the things AI is very good at is sorting and categorizing information. This means that some content that is not unique is actually still valuable because, for example, your social media posts are being compared to the structure of that topic. I mean, imagine a flowchart from Wikipedia of everything about the Keller funnel, history of it, all the things, complication rates, all the studies. So if you drop a social media content about using Keller funnels, you want it to fit that imaginary topic map. And just being unique is not the only thing you're being graded on. You're being graded on how does it compare. And for that reason, you need to define the thing you're talking about. The non-human visitor is looking for what is the thing? What is a Keller funnel? You might skip over that thinking your audience doesn't need that basic of an answer, but the AI does. So sometimes content that doesn't feel totally unique is still necessary in this new world, and these AIs are hungry for information. You can think of them as kind of careening across the web and landscape, sucking everything up. You want it to make sure you compare as an authority with all the topic on the subject.
So to clarify, when I do content for practices, I'm always talking from the cosmetic patient point of view. They don't care what a Keller funnel is,
That's right.
But are you saying you want to cover both?
You want to cover both.
Okay.
You don't have to do it all in one article or all in one tweet. You cover both. But yeah.
Okay. Then can AI help with tasks like managing before and after photos or getting patient reviews or tracking consents? Where can you use it pragmatically in the practice?
Those tasks are a challenge. It is going to help with those things. But because we're in a really specific medical niche, before and after photos, of course, they have to be completely anonymous. They have to have most of the identifying information removed. They have to look like medical before and after photos and not like wedding glamour shots. So right now, the image AI tools are a little behind the content language writing AI tools, but they're catching up fast. And I do expect there'll be some before and after tools that start to work, but right now there are not any that pass our standards. Similarly, patient reviews, there are software as service companies selling help with review building, and some of those tools do provide help. But there's no magic AI tool that is going to convince your patients to leave you a review unless they're really happy with your services and unless they have an easy opportunity. So the trick to every review workflow is have a great service and then remove as much friction as possible from getting that testimonial to go online. Uh, right now, there's no AI fix to that equation that I know of. But there are some ways that you can experience these some of the benefits of AI now. One of them is in content marketing. If you're doing social media, using these AI tools to generate your ideas to help you with planning, they're very good at that. They're very good at suggesting a broad range of topics, and that can really speed up your social media team. It can really help inside your office if there is a person who's multitasking and one of their jobs is make sure the website is current, that type of thing. So the content tools right now can really help inside the practice.
I love the content tools. The image generators are not as good. I've had, you know how you can go on one of them and say, give me a surgeon talking to a female patient. Give me a male patient, a male surgeon talking to a female patient. And what's funny is it'll come up with something, but the woman is looking off to the right, and the doctor has an extra arm coming out. And I've even done it with like the videos where I give it my video and my voice, and then I give it a script, and I make an avatar, and then it'll make me a video. But then I have like 6 fingers. I don't think they have the hands figured out yet, but the image generator is not good because right now what I have to do and what we all have to do is we have to go to some kind of like Adobe and buy images, and I was trying to, you could spend hours looking for images. So I can't wait till they fix that part. The image generator is not working for me.
They're they're getting better, but they don't work
Yeah.
well right now.
What about, can AI help make marketing more personal, like sending the right message to the right kind of patient at the right time? Because that's like smarketing, like smart marketing. If you can get a message in front of the right patient at the right time, most of us just send an email out to the whole list and say, oh, today we're talking about a bleph. And not everybody needs a bleph. Can AI help with that? Because if so, that could be a game changer.
Oh, it definitely can. The key is to provide it examples.
Hmm.
So if you're using ChatGPT, if you have one of these paid monthly accounts, don't assume that you can write a one-shot prompt and have it do everything. If you give it examples, it does much, much better. So in the case of assisting writing an email to a patient, you want to feed it some past emails that you know are good, and then you want to prompt it with some of the facts that are in the patient email, and then you want it to write. So uh, there's a type of prompting called tree of knowledge, where you basically work it like you're growing a tree of knowledge. And because it remembers the whole chat history as you go, starting with some basic information, then some examples, then short example of what you want, then do the thing is a great strategy.
That's such a good point. I have the longer I've had mine, and the more it gets to know me, the absolutely the content is so much better. Yeah. I forgot to ask about phones because so many practices have phone issues. Gosh, the phone's ringing at the front. The front desk is answering the phones, checking people in, checking them out, handling the skincare. It's just too much going on at the front desk. I think AI could be a game changer if we could figure that out. Do you have any suggestions for that? Or do you send the phones to the Philippines or do you just, I mean, what do you do? You know?
I do have some suggestions. I mean, yes, phones are always a struggle. Everyone I think knows the advice that your office needs to be responding to the phones and quickly in order to turn a question into a lead and into a consult. And if you have a delay time or a lag there, it really hurts you. So before I give any advice, don't introduce something that slows down that process.
Yeah.
You want to only introduce things that can speed it up, or if you're already fast enough, can make it easier. But One thing you could do today, if you don't have phone scripts for certain situations, is to ask AI to generate a phone script for you.
Mhm.
You may have some training data you could use as an example. You may not. It would be fine to ask the AI to give you its opinion of what should a transcript be for a 2-minute conversation with somebody calling with this question. Uh, then you'll have transcripts. You'll have something your staff has not been using before, and that's something you can do right now. The second thing um, is turning on call recording. You
Mhm.
need to know your state laws. You need to be using call tracking or phone numbers capable of being recorded. And that is a complicated setup. So that's way beyond what we'll talk about today. But many of the folks listening will have some type of call tracking or call recording option available. It just may not be turned on. So I would suggest you turn on call recording and you turn on the transcripts from those phone calls, because that is the key to the AI providing real assistance uh, in the phone call process. And you can start building that archive right now. Now, an AI that actually manages the phone or does something on the phone call, we're a little ways from that working. There are some technology problems. I think it's going to be, EMR and larger software vendors that have to combine their technology with the phone tracking technology to make it work.
I hope they work on that. I would say the phones are probably the number one challenge for getting to a converted surgery. Just answer the darn phone. Or if you can't answer it, what's plan B? Then what's plan C? Phones are a big deal. On the one hand, people say to me, "Oh, we have to have a human answer the phone." But then you have to have a human there, and if they're busy, and you get the answering machine and you get that phone tree from hell, I'm telling you, the patient with a credit card, you're turning them off. So I would figure that out. I was just at a meeting and we were talking about a couple of practices were using AI, but they were sending it over to the Philippines. So first it was AI, and then if they couldn't answer, the Philippines were answering the phones, but then the accents were way more than they expected, and just the quality control. But I love the accountability of recording calls. No matter who's answering the phone, absolutely, somebody should be spot checking, how do your phones sound? And don't assume anything, you know?
I have never shared a call log with a client and had them not immediately want to talk to me in detail, shocked about the results. This includes, the very best practices in the country. You learn something every single time. So if somebody listening has the ability to record calls and you're not doing it, please turn it on. You'll immediately be able to tune your business in the way that you can, like you're caring for a patient and their complications.
And it's not about, reprimanding anybody. It's about training people. And there's nothing better than hearing yourself on the phone. And of course you're cringing but then I say, well, you didn't tell them, you didn't train them. You didn't give them, the scripts to get through this phone call sounding like a professional. So it's all good. It really is. It becomes this so disciplinary thing, and it's not. It's just training and being a professional and rising to better standards than you have right now. Back to the numbers, what else can AI track in a practice that's probably not being tracked very well now?
Well, it can analyze anything that you're tracking now. Um, so in an AI product, some of the models are what's called multimodal. And if you see the word multimodal, it just means it's capable of receiving or generating things other than text. It could
Mm.
be generating speech, could be generating images, could be generating video in the future. So you need a multimodal model to do some of the things that I'm about to describe. But if you can take a screenshot, you can get AI to analyze your current business data. So it will take a screenshot from Google Analytics and tell you what it thinks it means. It will take a screenshot from QuickBooks and tell you what it thinks it means. It will take a screenshot of your EMR. Of course, don't show patient information if we're talking about him. But if you're looking at a top level report, it can analyze anything that you have today. You should play with those things. It can also track some of the KPIs that we already know are very important. So, in terms of visibility, it's search impressions or top of the funnel impressions or eyeballs interacting with your brand. And those search impressions, if we're talking about Google, are revealed in Google Search Console. You can give AI access to Google Search Console. That's not a insignificant setup, but it's also not too hard. In social media, we're talking about reach. So if you want an AI to interpret the reach of your social media posts, that is possible today. But you should be tracking both. The metrics that you should have, some of them are the same things that the AI should have. It needs to know how open is the top of your funnel, and are you listed when someone looks for something is how you measure that. Then the number of sessions or visits you're receiving, to some of your content deeper down the funnel. That's really important for the AI to have as a data point. You already have that if you're using Google Analytics 4. You already have that in the interfaces if you're running paid ads or anything like that. And then the number of leads. You have your own lead information. We just talked about call recording. If you turn that on and have transcripts, you have the actual call. And if it's a web form or a chat session, you have that. So these are things that AI can start to cross-reference and perform analysis from you. And in the beginning, it can be one-off experiments where you upload some of these things and ask it for, how could this be better? And it will suggest things that can be better. What's coming down the pipe are AIs that can choose their own tools. Just 6 months ago, it was very difficult to get an AI to consistently look up a URL and know that it looked at the web page and it wasn't just hallucinating about what a web page like that might have been. Today, many of these models will look up a URL every time and check the content you're asking it to check. So a model that can choose its own tools, sort of spin up an agent that's an expert at Google Analytics, or spin up an agent that's an expert at QuickBooks exports. Those things are going to be at your disposal pretty quickly, and that's another reason to be learning AI today. And then the final number is cost per lead. If you don't know your cost per lead for a particular marketing channel, well, some of the things I just said, you divide cost by number of inquiries from that channel, and you have your cost per lead number. And any practice that doesn't have true ROI, hasn't mapped out their whole marketing system from the value of the actual surgery back to where it came from online, you're not alone. The vast majority of practices are in that same boat. Cost per lead is a nice kind of napkin level number that levels the playing field, because if you're considering doing some marketing and the billboard company is telling you that at this intersection, it'll generate this many calls, and the billboard is only $6,000 a month, so that'll be X dollars per lead. Well, if you know that your paid ads from Google are $100 per lead, you don't have to do the billboard because you could just increase your ad spend in Google. I'm not asking you to do that, but that's how this cost per lead number really helps. The AI can help you make those judgment calls. So those are 4 metrics, and they're 4 metrics that I think you can get to an AI today. You'll definitely be able to get it into an AI within 6 months.
So, and that's all. So far, AI's been fantastic. Love it. You're loving it. We're using it. But what are the downsides to AI, or where do you see some of the negative consequences that could happen with AI and with our industry?
Well, there's several. The first is big picture. When we're using AI, let's not kid ourselves about what it is designed to do. It is designed to replace human labor. Well, I run a marketing agency. I have an excellent team that I've carefully assembled so we can deliver a certain level of work at a certain volume. And I don't necessarily want to replace the whole team. I think most of you listening are the same way in your office. And you want lower office overhead, but you don't necessarily want it to be an office of one where the AI does everything for you and you just show up to do the operation. I'm speaking for some of you, but
Some would love that.
yeah, some would love that. It's designed to replace labor. That has a downside. Where does the replaced labor go in the marketplace? What do they do? That affects the overall economy. That affects people's spending power. That affects the amount of surgery they buy. If a large chunk of society is displaced, then it's a complicated future picture. And even if your business runs really efficiently using these tools, the fact that across the whole economy it is literally replacing labor, we don't know if that decreases or increases overall spending in the economy. The second thing is medical related. It really has to be HIPAA compliant. And HIPAA compliance also, is a set of technical standards and legal standards. When we evaluate software tools, we have seen many that say they're HIPAA compliant, and when we look closely at their architecture, they're what I would call mostly HIPAA compliant. Like they're HIPAA compliant, but they'll let the surgeon request an email of the data on the back end, and that email is not secure. So they're HIPAA compliance. You want to make sure it is not just checking the box, but they actually take security of patient information seriously. Once you know that something is HIPAA compliant, and a downside of that being penalties and patient information exposed, and not a good situation. But even beyond HIPAA compliance, who owns this information? Uh, some of these software service companies want to own all the information about the doctor-patient relationship so that they can be the ones that own the database. Back in the beginning, I talked about making your own store of data, having your own filing cabinet of information you've gathered over the years. That's very important. Who owns the information? All of the tracking of a Google ad campaign is owned by Google. So they are learning over time from all of our experiences placing ads and seeing conversion rates and testing copy. And they use that to make themselves more money. So some of the software tool companies, whether it's a chat bot or a phone answering service or a straighten out your back end accounting type model, if you read their terms very carefully, you may see that they're going to take some of your information, store it in the cloud. They're going to own the cloud. They're going to own that information. And that should make you hesitate. It wouldn't make me always say no, but you need to be very conscious of who now owns this information and down the road, who gets to benefit from it. If you're just going to take all of your call transcripts, feed it into a service that is going to run AI on top of them, train the perfect autoresponders, but then sell those autoresponders to all of your competitors, well, maybe that's not a win. So that's a downside of when you give up ownership of the information you're storing, it has future consequences. Other people can build tools on top of it. Other people can contact the names in the database, all of those things. I always want our practices to own as much of the patient relationship as possible and practical. I know that an individual practice is not going to build a giant software system to own as much information as a call tracking vendor, but you want to own as much of it as you can. And then you want to keep that in your data warehouse, and then you get to call the shots later.
How do you know if you own it or not? Do you have to read a contract and like, is there a special place that it or special words they use to say who owns it?
You'll see the words license in these documents
Mm.
sometimes. You'll see information about where it is stored or how it is stored. It'll be in the service agreement with the software company. It's something you can ask in every sales call. And depending on the training of the salesperson demoing the tool, they'll either be able to say, yes, I have an answer, or I'll have to get back to you. Um, but yeah, it's something you should ask in every sales call.
I think you should ask, but then read the fine print. I don't know if the salespeople even know about this. One downside that I see coming from the patient point of view is just taking out the personalization of this because plastic surgery is a really emotional journey. And if we keep taking out the human side and it will become very commoditized because now you're not different than anyone else, or your chatbot is better than the other person's chatbot. There's still a big human component to what we do. So I would be very careful and balance humans versus machine just to preserve that relationship that you're trying to build with the patient. Yeah.
Definitely. And you want to take your most talented staff and put them in front of your future patients. And that includes you and your bedside manner. AI will open up some opportunities, but it doesn't remove that you've got talented staff and you yourself are talented and you want that talent on display at just the right moment in the journey of each of these patients.
Yeah. Well, this has been fantastic. Clark, how can surgeons learn more about AI? Because it does keep changing. I think you were going to have a resource for them. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I've put up a little page on Cake websites. It's just cakewebsites.com/AI. And I put a little form up just for folks who watch this podcast. And I'll share some of the resources that I haven't necessarily said out loud in this interview, some specific examples of some of these things that anyone could benefit from knowing about. I'll list a few of my favorite YouTubers as well, and a few of my favorite authoritative sources this stuff is changing so fast.
Mhm.
And the practice I have adopted is to experiment frequently by using these tools, but to follow the people that I have found generate the most trusted content and actually show themselves doing it. So I follow, manner of speaking, as few people as possible, but they're as good as I can find. And I'll share some of that list with anyone who wants it. And that way you're not just deluged with you won't believe what happens next type headlines on YouTube as you research these things.
Right. All right. So the website is cakewebsites.com, because if you put in cake websites, I've never seen so many cakes in my life. So, it'll keep showing you cakes. So you have to put in cakewebsites.com/AI. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Clark. I really appreciate it. And everybody, that's going to wrap it up for us today. I hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, please subscribe to Beauty in the Biz, and of course, share it with your friends, colleagues, and staff. And then if you've got any questions for me or any feedback, please leave them on my website at catherinemaley.com, or you can certainly DM me on Instagram at catherinemaley.mba. Thanks so much, and we will talk again soon.
The fastest way to success is to model other successful surgeons who have what you want, but you can only see their results, not the path they took to get there. So you continue to jump from one thing to another, hoping to find something that will work for you too. But it rarely does. So try this shortcut instead. It's guaranteed to move you forward. I compiled my intellectual property to grow cosmetic revenues, everything I've gleaned over the years, into one playbook of the most successful practices and what they do to win. Go to cosmeticpracticevault.com and let's grow your cosmetic revenues.